Honey, if paranoid was a person, it would be named capital L, capital E, capital WIS. Lewis. Okay? Honey, let's talk about it. Welcome to my channel Reviewed, where we talk about all things television and film from today and yesteryear. So I wanted to come on here today and do a quick recap of Reasonable Doubt Season 2, Episode 5. Let's get to it. So the episode starts out with Jax and Lewis, who are both having a sleepless night. So Jack gets up and she goes into the dining room. She gets on her laptop and she's trying to figure out who this dude is in these photos with Adrian. And while she's on her laptop, honey, Lewis is in the bathroom sending out SOS text messages, child. Okay. So the next day, Jax goes to see Chanel. She slides over the folder with old boy's picture in it. She's like, do you know who this is? And Chanel was like, yeah, that's Evan Gerard. He is JT's business partner. And Chanel was like, why, what's up? And Jax told her, she's like, well, this is the guy that we saw Adrian with. And so Chanel was like, okay, whatever. And Jax is basically like, are you sure you need to know everything you need to know about Adrian? She's like, yeah, he saved me, and whatever. So they're talking, and Jax finally asked Chanel, she's like, did you do it? Are you the one who really sent your husband to meet the Grim Reaper? And Chanel was like, what? So she kind of gets defensive or whatever, and she just starts saying all kinds of stuff to Jax, like, you don't believe women, do you? Is that why you have more male clients? Because you just don't believe what women say? And Jax finally tells her, she's like, baby, deflection is not a flex. She's like, and it don't look good on you either. So in that moment, Jax kind of figured out that Chanel is indeed covering up. But for who? We don't know. We don't know who it is yet. So Lewis ends up talking to his brother, and he is grasping for straws at this point. He lets his brother know. He was like, that chick Tony I hooked up with, man, she pregnant. Brother was like, is it yours? He was like, I don't know. And the brother was like, what you mean you don't know? You ain't wrap it up? He was like, I don't, not all the time. And the brother was like, not all the time. He was like, I'm gay. Well, I wrap it up all the time. He was like, I thought y'all heterosexuals knew better than that or whatever. And so the brother was like, I ain't call you for no lecture. Lewis was like, look, man, I'm just need some advice. And so the brother said to him, he was like, well, have you heard back from her? And he was like, nah, I texted her, but she ain't texted me back. He was like, you got her number in your phone? And Lewis was like, yeah. The brother was like, you need to change her name to something else. He said, change it to something else. I was like, yo, dudes is wild. Seriously. Okay. So Jax is back at the office. She's talking to Corey and the crew, and she's basically letting them know who Evan Gerard is, and they are basically trying to put the pieces of that puzzle together and figure out exactly why Evan and Adrian are communicating with each other. So Jax and Lewis are at home. They're watching TV, and on the television, they're talking about the upcoming case with Chanel and her husband or whatnot. And so Jax makes the comment like, Tony might get called to testify because of the interview and what was said in the interview. And baby, when I tell you, Lewis, if Lewis was a gun, baby, he would have been sweating bullets right then and there in that moment. So Jack's like, I need another drink. You want one? So Jack goes to make a drink, and baby, his phone starts ringing. Okay. So it's Tony that's calling him back, and he got her in his phone as Alex Dunn. Honey. So he's talking to her, and he's like, yeah, yeah. So he's pretending like he's having a conversation or lack thereof with someone that he works with. And so Tony's like, so your wife is there? She's like, well, why would you call me when she was there if you couldn't talk? Like she got a little attitude like, girl, absolutely not. Go sit down and stay there. Okay. So here we make it to the first day of the trial, and they got all these protesters outside. Some people are for Chanel, some people are against her. So Chanel comes into the courtroom, and of course, it's a lot of people there because this is a high-profile case. And so here we have Corey and the prosecuting attorney basically talking to the jury. They're giving a synopsis of what is going on and what ultimately led them there today. Corey also, he makes a statement of how Black women are one of the most unbelieved group of women, most abused group of women, and mistreated group of women. So here we have the medical examiner and the lead investigator who was there on, at the time of the crime scene or whatnot. And so Corey ends up asking the medical examiner, he asked her, he was like, do you think that if Chanel had called the ambulance or whatnot within a certain amount of time that he would have survived? And the medical examiner's like, probably. But, it wasn't necessarily definite whether or not he would have survived. And so the investigator, he says that the fact that the body was moved and the fact that Chanel took a shower and, her clothes were washed and whatnot, those are red flags of her kind of knowing what she did. And now for me personally, I'm wondering if his daughter is the one that hit him in the back of the head with the trophy. Because when you think about it, we really do not know what happened to her mom. I don't recall. And if he did say what happened to her, who's to say it was the truth? Okay. And also, the fact that they said it was 2 hours before she called 911. 2 hours is enough time for her to shower and take her stepdaughter to whomever's house that the stepdaughter was at. So I'm just wondering if it's a possibility that she is the one who did it because of her father being abusive to her mother. So those are my thoughts, but I don't know. So we get a scene here with Lewis. He is talking to Spencer because of everything that happened last week with Spencer, wanting to audition for a play or whatnot, and Lewis kind of like looking at him sideways. So he is basically giving him information about this performing art school, thinking that his son would be interested in, and of course he is, and he does get accepted later on in the episode. So Corey gets invited out by the colleagues, for a drink or whatnot. So he takes them to this cigar lounge, and the dude was like, "Yeah, this is a nice little hidden gem." And Corey was like, "Yeah, my friend owns it." He was like, "It's a black only spot. That's why I had to bring y'all in through the back door." Baby, when I tell you the look on their faces, it was too funny. Corey's like, "I'm just kidding," or whatever. So they're chilling, sipping and smoking or whatnot. And they, started asking questions about Jax and how does he like working with her? And they basically say, Jax can be a little overbearing. She can be, a little just too in the case because that is her friend. And Corey, he doesn't say anything about her specifically, but he basically does agree with what they're saying because he has been having some issues with Jax always inserting herself in situations when he kind of just want to handle things the way that he wants to handle it. And Jax being Jax, she's like, "Nah, I'm gonna say what I need to say, and you're gonna take it or leave it." Okay. So here we have Jax calling her mom. She's trying to get all up in her mama business because she heard her mama had a new boo thing. And her mama was like, "It ain't none of your business. This is somebody that I met when I was dropping off so-and-so clothes at the shelter." She's like, "Just know I'm happy. That's all you need to know." And of course, Jax is concerned because, her children go over there. And we already know the situation that happened with Jax and her stepfather. So she is just trying to make sure that she get all the information she can so she can run a background check on Sir that's going to be around her mother and potentially her children. Okay. So Jax gets called into the boardroom where she is meeting with the colleagues who had drinks and cigars with Corey the other night. And they're basically letting Jax know that she needs to kind of lay low a little bit, just kind of fall back on her involvement with the case with Corey. They're like, this is his case, and you kind of just need to let him lead, basically, is what they were saying in so many words. And Jax was like, "Oh, okay, I got you. It's done. Okay, cool." So later on that night, Jax ends up meeting up with her friends Autumn and Sally, and they're having a conversation. And so Jax basically says that she does not believe that Chanel is telling the whole truth, and Autumn basically says she feels the same way. But Autumn's assumptions are completely different from Jax because we know that Jax is looking at it from a perspective of, her being the attorney and also just feeling like she knows Chanel and she knows Chanel well enough to know when Chanel is not being authentically honest. So while they are speaking their feelings about everything, Sally gets up and walks off because she's like, "Y'all not about to sit up here and talk about my cousin, make it seem like she's lying," and things of that nature. And I'm like, "Girl, you're not even allowing them to elaborate on their feelings in this moment. You're just getting up and walking off." And of course, she just leaves them sitting at the table, both of them like, like dumbfounded, like, "Girl, whatever." So Lewis meets up with Tony finally, and she basically lets him know. She was like, "The only person that's excited about this baby is me," and she lets him know. She said, "You don't have to worry about anything." He was like, I just want to know if it's mine or not." And she's like, "It's not yours." And he's like, "Are you sure?" She's like, "I'm positive. I'm sure." He was like, Jackson and I are in a good space. We're doing much better." And she's like, "I didn't expect you to leave your wife. That wasn't what I expected in the first place." So, he is like, "Okay, cool, thank you," or whatever. And then he ends up leaving. So here they are on the second day of court. And honey, when I tell you Chanel was 38 hot, honey, her mother-in-law was on the stand. And her mother-in-law was basically making it seem like Chanel was the problem. Like she didn't mean her son any good. She was like her son was not an abuser. She was basically making it seem like Chanel was the problem. And I'm like, no, ma'am, it was your son. Your son was the nefarious Neanderthal. Like, girl, get out of here. And Chanel was like, you knew everything. You knew about the black eyes. You knew everything that your son was doing to me. And so the mother-in-law is still up there constantly lying and spewing out all these lies and things of that nature. And baby Chanel finally had enough, and she stood up and started yelling. And I swear all I thought about was this. You told Harpo to beat me. So Jax finally gets a one-on-one with Evan Gerard, and basically he is making it seem like what he and Adrian got going on is just business, okay? So Evan Gerard goes to the prison to visit Chanel, and he basically lets Chanel know that Adrian was using her because he owes him a lot of money. And so Chanel was like, what? And I'm like, yeah, girl, he owed boy a substantial amount of money, and you was his meal ticket. So she don't know how to take the information that is given to her because she's still in her feelings for Adrian, and she think that this dude really love her. And I'm like, girl, get out of here, because clearly he does not. Okay. So however it happens, Adrian finds out that Evan goes to see Chanel. And honey, when I tell you he is upset, he said, I can't believe you went to go see Chanel and you told her XYZ. And Evan was basically like, yeah, I needed to lay eyes on a person that's going to be able to run you my money. And so they're talking or whatever, sparring a little bit. And Evan basically lets Adrian know that he's going to have to get rid of Jax because Jax is going to be a problem. And Adrian was like looking at him like, what you mean? And he was like, you need to take care of her, period. So Jax ends up meeting up with Corey, and she basically asked him, she's like, what exactly did you say to our colleagues? They're telling me that I need to fall back, let you take the lead. And he was honest with her. He said, I don't like how you interfere with the way that I'm trying to handle things. He said, I get that that's your friend. He said, but you are always going against the things that I am trying to, do so I can accomplish what I'm, by defending her. And Jackson's like, well, you have to understand that her being my friend, I am going to be a bit more involved. And she was like, it's just kind of hard for me. He's like, I understand that. He said, but I'm defending her because she is your friend. He said, I took on this case because of that. And he's like, you have to trust me and trust the way that I handle things. And, Jackson's like, all right, she listened to him and she was like, we don't need to let these white folks come in between us or whatnot. She was like, we have to basically root for everybody black. And so they basically made amends. They kind of, because they were bumping heads in this episode, with the reporters and things like that. Jax, she just kind of inserts herself a little bit too much. But again, she was like, because it's so close to home for her and she can't help be the way that she is because she just wants the best outcome from her friend. Jax ends up getting a phone call from Adrian and he asked her to meet up with him. He was like, we need to talk. Can we meet up? And Jax was like, okay, yeah, sure. And so she is kind of a little suspicious because he wants to meet her at Chanel's house. So Jax gets ready to leave the office to go meet up with Adrian. And, Daniel was like, hey, do you need me to come with you? And so at first Jax was like, nah, I'm good. I'll be fine. And then she thinks about it and she turns around. She's like, you know what? On second thought, yeah, you need to follow me, because she don't know what's going on. So she gets to Chanel's house. Adrian is sitting down chilling. He's looking at a photo of Chanel and her husband. And so he gets up to greet Jax and he got a blicky, in the back of his pants or whatnot. And it goes off from there. So I'm wondering if he is going to actually pull the gun out on Jax. And if he does, if he is going to harm her or if he going to harm himself. And I'm like, if they have him unalive himself in front of Jax again, that's another person that she gets to see do that. We already know Jax is dealing with her anxiety from the last incident she had with Michael Ealy's character from season 1. So I'm like, I wonder if they are going to let history repeat itself and Jax is going to see another man unalive himself in front of her, or if he's even going to pull the blicky out at all, if they're just going to have a conversation, if he's going to punk out, because I don't see him being that type of person that's going to be able to go through with anything like that in reference to taking out Jax, who hasn't done anything to him. She just doing her job. So I don't know how that's going to happen, y'all, but I do still feel like it possibly could have been Chanel's husband's daughter who may have been the person that hit him upside the head with that trophy. I mean, outside of Adrian, who else could it be? I guess we shall find out. Okay. So that's all I have for you guys today. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. And I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.